I can see you now, Mark.
Okay.
You're not the elusive Bigfoot creature.
I should be the one that's blurry, so nobody can make out my features and stuff. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Should muffle your voice like they used to do with all those
mhm,
interviews and crap on the news. They put your little cover your voice up, and then.
yeah,
But so what's new and
not
exciting?
much. Just thought we'd do our usual conversation, but this time maybe do it live. Talk about no
Yeah.
name nationals and stuff here a little bit, but nobody's on here yet.
Well, I got
I
to.
think they gave up on me.
Nah.
My technical proficiency, of being able to coordinate all this. Well, I do it like once every 6 months. So every time I go to do it, I got to kind of relearn how to set it up.
How to do a live again?
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah, I
sure
haven't done one in a long time.
StreamYard's probably a lot easier. So
Oh yeah,
but it looks like we do have
way
like one
easier.
person here. Ah,
So
Blake from Bad Tree Productions. Cool. I saw your
yeah,
I
bad
saw his
trees in here.
cryptic post. He had a community post. It was a car that was all blurred out and everything. So looks like Bad Tree's got some uh, mystery afoot there. I was wondering if he traded his dart or if he uh, got something different. But anyway, how you been, Chris?
I've been good.
Yeah,
Just been trying to deal with the heat.
yeah.
So
Been out
we've
driving.
been having. Yeah, yeah. We took the Firebird yesterday up to my brother-in-law's.
Yeah,
So that's about an hour and a half drive either way.
yeah.
So
Must be nice
so
to
I've
be able
been running.
to drive your cars.
Now the Chevelle I haven't driven that much, really. I
Yeah,
need to drive that more,
yeah.
but I
Hey, John
just
Children,
haven't driven it.
you
Oh,
get
John's
that
in here.
you get that rocker arm thing all settled now.
Yeah, yeah. It's running good,
Good.
but I just haven't driven it that much.
Yeah,
I need to get out and drive it. I haven't had much ambition. Let's just put it that way. So I haven't messed with that hood at all. I need to do that. I just like I said, I just haven't had a whole lot of ambition right now.
mm,
So a lot of stuff going on family wise on
yeah.
both sides.
Well, yeah.
So
It gets that way
with
around the
with
4th of July.
well, no, with older parents,
Mm.
we got stuff going on with her
Oh,
mom, my dad. So
yeah. And
and
we got
then we have the heat wave going on, so
mm,
that just makes it even worse.
yeah. Yeah, we've had
So
some family illness type stuff hit us too.
yeah.
Blake was saying a 72 Duster from Minnesota. If it's that maroon one that's been on your channel before, I know a guy that owned it maybe before your buddy bought it. A guy by the name of Alan. He was from Zumbrota, Minnesota. If it's the same Duster. Um, okay, and that's about as much as I know. I remember when Alan had it posted, and then Alan was actually at Mopars in the Park. He walked through the swap meet and he bought a manual steering box from Mopar Jeff 604. But other than that, I don't talk to him that often. But I got his number. I could always reach out to him and see if he knows more history about the car because I know he had it for a while. But that's a big block Duster too, so that should be a lot of fun. But anyway, Chris, did you do any more with that hood?
No, I haven't done anything with it. I've been planning out I've been looking at it because it has a framework in it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all open for the scoop.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out how to close it off inside
Mm-hmm.
so that I can make the actual scoop like a ram air like functional.
Yeah.
So I just need to get out there and just flip it over and get some cardboard. Because one thought I have is just taking pieces of aluminum and cutting them and just putting them into the sections that are open
Mm-hmm.
and doing it that way, or just making like a plenum on the inside of the scoop.
Mm-hmm.
But I just got to get out there and just start messing with it. I want to try and do that this week because you know, I just haven't been doing. I've been working on other stuff, and
Yeah.
I just haven't messed with it. So
Well, I know like Joe, he just put like a giant piece of aluminum, as sort of like an air cleaner with foam around it, so that when you shut the hood,
Mhm.
it rolled onto that, and that was actually mounted onto his like carburetor, kind of like an
Okay.
air box, so that part came down and sealed to the hood. But I don't know if that would work because that's a longer scoop. That's not kind of just a small area. It's like the length of the. It's like a cowl hood almost.
Yeah, see, this is all it has like a framework of like the stock hood in underneath it.
Mhm.
If you can imagine, you know what the framework looks like,
Yeah.
underneath. But where the framework is, they molded the scoop over it. So in
Mm,
between that framework, it's all open underneath there. So
mm.
all the hot air from the engine would get up all into that.
Uh,
Um, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to block all that so
mm.
that the scoop is just pretty much sealed off from the under hood temperatures.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just drop it, then when I close it, I can just make like an air cleaner seal there and I can just drop it down and close it off.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of the plan. I just don't know if I want to do it because there's like little cutouts where the factory would have put the insulation and stuff in the hood. Um, but I don't know if I was thinking of just trimming out like sheet aluminum and just putting it in there, or just making a plenum inside the actual scoop itself, the L80, the L88 scoop, and just making a plenum just so that it seals the engine heat off from the scoop. Because the
Mm.
other issue is that with all that open, it's going to suck all that hot air down into the cowl, and
Yeah.
it's going to make the car pretty hot.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's one reason why I'd like to try and do it too, because then all that hot air will just be blowing down through you,
That's why
through the
we're just gonna
cowl.
cut a hole in my hood.
Just shove shit up
Just
through
you stick the carburetors through the hood,
through the
is what
hood.
you do to fix that.
Well, maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should just hack up my flat hood and just put the air cleaners up through it.
Yeah.
That'd solve the problem. But
People do it. I've seen
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I got to drag it out and throw it on the stands and start messing with it and just figure out what's going to be the easiest way to do it, you
Mm.
know, the simplest way, because that'll shore it up a little bit more and it'll make it a little sturdier too by putting that stuff in. And it's not going to add that because I'm going to just going to use aluminum sheets and it's not going to be any heavier than a steel,
Yeah.
it's still gonna be pretty light, so
Mm.
and then once I get that done, I wanna do that first, and then I wanna start sanding on it and try and get it painted and stuff. So,
Yeah, I'm pretty
I
much dead water.
are ya?
Nothing going forward, yeah. There's no way I'll be able to make, like, no name nationals. I kinda thought for a moment there we might actually get the truck running where I could drive that down, which would be pretty cool. Um, I took that 440 I got from Ryan over to Jeff's because I figured, when I had it at Ryan's, we just threw that mystery cam that was supposed to be like a 509 purple cam in it. And I was
Uh-huh.
just going to put that Street Dominator single plane I got from Just Mopar Joe. I was going to put that on the engine. So that cam and intake swap was all I was going to do and then just throw it in the truck and go. But it was wintertime when we were trying to do that cam swap and never finished it. And then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, I'd rather have Jeff kind of go with me through the whole engine and everything, to make sure that we're doing things right, which is a good thing we did, but then it kind of snowballed. Um, we got to worrying about like, I'm sure that cam's perfectly decent, but we measured it and we were getting more like, 510, lift between 510 and 525 lift, and it just had the factory springs and stuff on it. And then we're like, well, we'd like to set the valve springs up to meet, the seat pressure to meet the cam. And then
Yeah.
we tried to figure out what the cam was. We took it to the machine shop because we also decided to have the heads just gone through to make sure they're okay, and cleaned up a bit. And we wound up putting the cam back in the car, and then Jeff put his or on the engine, and Jeff took his calipers and measured it there. But by that time, I'd talked to Joe and decided to buy a completely different cam. And this one, we got the cam card and everything, and that's what we did today. I was over at Mopar Jeff 604s, and we put in the cam and degreed the cam, and then kind of painted the block. But now we're waiting on the heads.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, because took
Yeah.
it to the guy, and then of course 4th of July weekend hits and everything, and so
Yeah.
but peace of mind. And the good thing is like the valve seats, they looked like they were good, but when the guy took one out, they were all cracked up. So it was a good thing we decided to go ahead and go through the heads. And then
Yeah.
now that we know specifically what cam and what lift and everything, they're going to be able to set the valve spring, the spring pressure, to my camshaft, so I don't have to worry about any of that. But and then I switched from that single plane intake to the one I got from Jed, mostly just because it's cool. It's a RPM dual plane, but
Okay.
instead of saying Edelbrock on it, it's the Mopar Performance version. So on
Oh,
the
okay.
manifold it says Mopar Wedge, which I think is pretty cool, because I like that better than Edelbrock on the top of the intake.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's good.
as soon as the heads get
Well, you're
back,
still
that's the thing we got left to put on the engine, and then I am going to take it to the dyno because I thought it'd be kind of fun to see what like a cast crank low compression engine, is going to make on the dyno.
I wouldn't think it'd do too bad. I wouldn't think 300, at least 300 horse or plus anyways.
Oh yeah. Well, I was looking
Easily.
it up and like the 76 440, which this is, the lean burn 2 barrel carburetor version of it made like 205 horsepower and 305 foot-pounds of torque. And then the 4 barrel version made 250 horsepower with about 350 torque. And we measured how far it was down in the hole. A maximum wedgie. We measured how far down in the hole it was, and it's got 906 heads on it, and they're usually around like
Yeah,
I want
they're right
to say,
around 88 cc's or
yeah,
87
they're pretty
cc's.
big. And then with the factory compression, the zero point 0.5, the point zero 0.05 gasket, it came to like 845 to one, almost 8.5 to one. So when they take the heads, they're gonna plane them to make sure that they're flat. And he said, he might take just a tiny hair more. And then I got the thinner head gaskets. So hopefully it'll be a little bit over 8.5 to one compression.
Well, that'd be good because then you could just run junk gas in it.
Yeah.
Anything. You can run 87 or whatever.
Yeah.
You won't have
And
to
then,
worry about it detonating.
yeah, it'll be a good motor. I'm expecting, like I said, if it makes over 350 horsepower and over 400 foot-pounds of torque, I'll be happy. But
What?
I'm hoping it'll do a little bit better than that. But that's just my minimal goal.
Yeah. What for cam did you get for it?
So it's a Lenati Voodoo Cam. Um, it's got tighter lobe separation, which they says kind of what you want for low compression engine, and then it's a 493 513, so it's a healthy cam. Probably too much cam, but if later
Was
on
it
I
their?
ever wanted to put a set of stealth heads or something on that engine, it would be a monster. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the
and the
Voodoo
truck's a
cams
four
work
stroke.
really good. Yeah.
What's that?
So, I mean, I said those Voodoo cams work really good.
Yeah, Joe recommended two, and there was a smaller version, which would have been the ideal one. And they always say, if you're like looking at a cam, always go with your smaller choice, and you'll be happier. Well, the cam that he recommended was no longer in stock, so I
Oh,
went with one up.
jeez.
So I went with the size up, but but he said, I think anyway. I think he used that one that wasn't available in that 413 that he built on his channel, and that one lays rubber all the way down. It's in a truck, and it lays rubber all the way down the track.
Mhm. Hey, Rob's
Rob's
here,
Rods and
Rob's
Cars is here.
Street.
Cool.
Yep. So you're
Yeah,
still going to the no names, aren't you, Mark?
me? Oh hell yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you just won't have a car.
yeah. Like I said, there's like a 30 to 40% chance I could bring my truck. Once we get the engine dynoed, I'm going to go down to Cullen's where the truck's at. I'm going to pull the engine and then take the truck over to Jeff's, and we'll put the engine in. And we'll probably have to do like Dead Dodge Garage did and take the front drive shaft out because I want to put headers on it.
Yeah.
And in his video, he was talking about how you had to if put like at least a 4 inch lift on if you're going to run headers, to get clearance from the drive shaft. So I plan to do that later, but I figured, I'll take the front drive shaft out and
Yeah,
drive.
you don't need it. Yeah.
But if we can get it running, then I'd have to get a decent set of tires. But then I got to worry about like, are the wheel bearings okay? Because the truck sat for so long, and all those
Yeah.
that you don't want to find out when you're doing a 700-mile road trip.
Yeah, that shit's crap.
You don't want your wheel bearings to spot weld themselves.
To the spindles or the axle or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
those
hear
tires
you.
are on there, they look cool, and like they were new at one time, but they're dry rotted now and cracked. So I've
Oh,
been trip, so I'd have to get all new tires for it too. But a guy can dream, we'll see. Everything's way off schedule. The we were late getting the car to the body guy, the Belvedere, and then so now he's behind because we thought we were going to get the car back in June, but we didn't, and now it's looking like the earliest at the end of July. And I was over at Gary's, let's see, a week ago, and he has everything for my engine finally, and for the blown 440, and I watched him install one cam bearing. So my current 68 block is all machined and ready, and it has at least one cam bearing in
one cam bearing in it. He's like, "Shit, Mark's here, better do something. Let's jam a cam
it.
bearing in
Yeah, it's like,
it."
look, I'm working on your engine. I'm like, well, thank
Oh,
you, Gary. I
man.
feel so much better now, knowing that I have
Jeez.
one cam bearing in my block.
Well, that's a start anyways, isn't it? It's better than
Yeah,
nothing.
and I'm resigned to the fact it's kind of cool if that stuff doesn't get back to me. Like if we even just get started on the car, like late August, and then I got all winter to put the car together right and not worry about trying to rush anything. Make
Yeah.
sure I get everything I want and everything's mapped out nice before I go trying to run to something, like the No Name Nationals. Um, just
You don't wanna roadkill it and
people expect me to bring a nice car, I guess. John Wilburn was saying, what's it like getting rid of a car as nice as the Jack Pine? And I regret getting rid of my satellite more than the Jack Pine.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because then I would have something cool that I could kind of drive, and I could have got that more street worthy. And just, I probably should have just kept that car and left the 318 in it, and just made it like as awesome as possible. Maybe put vintage air in it, and then I'd have a cool driver.
Yeah.
Hindsight though. And like actually Andy, the guy I got the Jack Pine from, I took him the dash for my Belvedere. He does metal work, and he was going to seal in the speaker hole and the ashtray and the glove box, make the dash one piece looking, all out of
Mhm.
metal. So he's doing that for me this weekend, and he even said, "Yeah, it's you're kind of handcuffed when you're dealing with a heirloom car like that.
Yeah,
Everywhere I
because you
went."
can't change it.
Yeah, I can't change anything. The car was already at its limit, so and to be honest, the Jack Ryan was beautiful, but I just never really liked the 67, 66 Coronets, I mean,
Yeah.
I liked it while I had one, but normally I never would have looked at one.
How do you pick a stall converter?
Well,
Well,
I
the
don't.
camshaft kind of goes into that equation too, along with gears.
Yeah. So when
It's gonna be more camshaft anything.
yeah, I spec'd out a cam for the Jack Pine, and when I called the guy, he wanted to know a bunch of information. You're gonna wanna know, like, where your engine makes its peak horsepower, where it makes its peak torque, camshaft specs, and then the weight of the car, and then also is it automatic or manual, and then, is it gonna be foot braked, trans brake, and then also the rear end differential and the, height of your tire. All of that is like stuff that you kind of have to quick plug in to try to figure out where you're going to get the most optimal converter. You can kind of guess it, I mean, you can get pretty close, I think, sometimes without all that. But I think I forget which converter website I was at. They actually had like a template where you typed in all that information. I know Gary's got a little slide calculator that helps you figure all that out. Like what would be the best rear end gear ratio, with your weight or your car, and kind of helps you figure out the rear end gear ratio and the converter. So it's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah, it all depends on what you're doing too. If it's a street car or if it's a full blown drag car,
Mhm,
because sometimes if it's just a street car and you know what the cam specs are and stuff.
mhm. Yeah, I can
Well, he's
imagine.
got 456 gears in it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jackpine had an 8-inch converter in it, which was part of the reason I didn't drive it to Lambert's.
Yeah, because that stalled at what, 4 grand, 4,500, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. That had a 640 lift cam with a 450 or 430 rear gear, and a 29-inch tall tire. And, yeah, it stalled at, like, 4,200, I think. But, yeah, the
Yeah,
problem too is with your the other thing with your converter is, are you looking for quarter mile performance, or do you want it, like, on the street too? Because if you have one, like, with that 4,500 stall, it seems like your transmission's slipping when you're just barely driving it because you're not hitting where it flashes. So, it's like not fun to drive because it feels like a dog. You're driving the car and it doesn't seem like it's very responsive, but as soon as you blip it into its power range, it takes off. But that's not very
yeah,
pleasant. The jack pine wouldn't be very pleasant driving to the stoplight because of that.
Mater's Workshop. Will you be at the No Name 24?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be there.
Sure will. I'll be there.
There is another dream I have is if we actually get my car back from paint and we get the engine and transmission and stuff in it, even if it's not running, maybe renting an enclosed trailer and just bringing it down. That would be very expensive to do that for no reason other than to just say I made it. But
Yeah.
I personally am going to go no matter what. I still like the idea of maybe flying into Harrisburg there, Chris, and road tripping with you because I could ride back with either Ryan or Nomadic Van Addict. My
Well,
friend,
you're welcome to come. That's fine.
I think that would
We
be a
got
blast.
an extra room.
Yeah. So,
We got an
because
extra
Nomadic
room
Van
you can
Addict's
stay.
coming, and he's from
Oh,
Minneapolis.
is he?
So when I could always ride back with him. So just have to get a one-way ticket to there. I just got to decide if I want to try to go to Mo Party or not. Since I don't have a car, I don't if I'll go to Mo Party. I got the whole 2 weeks off. The week before No Name Nationals is Mo Party, and not,
Okay.
not sure if I'll do that or because I also kind of want to visit my mom too, and that's the other part. Because if I go all the way down there, I'd always feel bad if I don't at least swing by and see her. But me and my sister might
Yeah.
be going to see her in August, and if we do that, I won't feel so bad if I don't get to see her in September.
Well, let me know because, like I said, I don't have a problem with you staying.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even if you fly in on, it'd probably be cheaper to fly in on like a Friday or a Saturday
Mm,
because the weekend rates are usually cheaper.
mm,
The fly, at least they used to be. I don't know how they are now. But I
no.
mean, even if you fly in on a Friday and we blow out of here on a Tuesday, you can hang out for a couple days. It's no big deal. Because
Yeah.
I was going to take that whole week off and then take a couple days off the week after
Yeah.
I get back.
So you got
So,
time before and after.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll
So
coordinate that to make sure. But man, the talk about the No Name Nationals has been pretty light this year.
yeah, I
I
saw.
know a
Well,
lot of
people are
people are
starting.
everybody who's used has been going are already planning on going, but nobody's talking about it. No, like one guy
No.
comment about there are no call outs this year. It's
Oh,
just
there's some call outs now. They've been
oh
starting. Yeah, they've been starting to Buck is he called out JB, and I guess there's been some call outs getting thrown around. So,
okay, yeah. Oh,
but
I'm going to call everyone out next year. This is
oh
your
yeah,
notice.
you're on
Everyone's on
notice.
next year. Yeah. Mater's going to be there. That's cool as a spectator.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and by all means, like uh, it's always fun when, like, I feel bad because sometimes people come up when we're there and talk to you, and you don't put a name to a face as far as, like, some of the other, like, YouTubers and that. So definitely introduce yourself and, like, "Hey, this is my channel," and
Yeah,
I'm
make
really
sure
bad
you
about
identify. You
I'm really bad.
identify so
I
we
know
know who you
faces that
are.
I've seen before, that I met there and talked to before, and, but, I feel bad if, like, I have, uh, talked to Mater before. Yeah.
You're gonna be able to handle riding in a Chevy for 14 hours.
I'll take some Dramamine, try to sleep the whole trip,
Nice.
try to keep from throwing up in your car.
Wow.
The
Wow.
good news is we won't be hitting any speed that I'll have to worry about.
Oh, Jesus, here we go. It's getting deep now.
Well, it's just jealousy because you could drive both your cars.
I sent you some stuff you can drive.
I know, but my
I
wife said
know.
she said no.
No. She said, "Wow."
Mm, yeah.
She said,
Otherwise,
"No."
I'd be styling in that 74 or 75 Trans Am.
Well, you get the truck back, you'll be good.
Mm.
Because then you got
Yeah,
something you can
that's
drive.
gonna be my replacement. That'll be dude, I'm gonna daily the heck out of that thing when I get it
Yeah,
and roadworthy because it's just gonna be so much fun with a 4-speed, and it's gonna make the
a
right
big
noises,
lot. Yeah. So,
especially once I get
you
it a
know,
little bit of a lift on it, and I know that, it's roadworthy. It's got good tires on it, good wheel bearings. The
you
brakes
putting
work fine.
30 you putting 35s on it, or you just gonna you're not sure yet?
I don't know. I'll kind of figure all that out when I figure out, like, what lift I'm gonna go with. I kinda like the Skyjacker lift where it's a spring lift,
Yeah, that's much better.
and if that lifts it high enough to clear the drive shaft, because 'cause I'm not really gonna be off-roading it where I have to worry about tons of clearance because of, like, you know, articulation or anything. Because 'cause I'm never really gonna take it off the road hard, maybe some gravel roads and stuff, but it's never gonna be
Yeah,
a rock, so
yeah, and it's just too
good
big for
old
that kind of stuff. Who
arm hanging out the window, shifting and driving, going down the road.
Nice.
Yeah.
White wagon wheels and all. Big
Actually,
old 35.
got I've got the original steel wheels, and I'm gonna have them sandblasted and probably because the coder guy I go to that Wolf Hunter Coatings here in Minnesota, dude, like he was gonna charge me like $100 to do the headers for the truck, and then he mentioned, it's gonna be cheap to do those if I want to do those rear wheels that I just got for the Belvedere.
Mhm.
So I'm like, dude, why not take them to him, have them blasted and coated, paint them. I want the factory wheels powder coated white because that's the way they were from the factory. And then I've already got those black wheels that are wider that I can put a bigger tire on.
Yeah.
But I'll put the taller, like farm tires, like on the white wheels. There's a Kaiser brand or something like that that's kind of a muddy looking tire, but it's more that you see on an old farm as opposed to on a mud truck.
Okay.
It's kind
Okay.
of an older school tread pattern. I've seen
Yeah,
them on
kinda looks like
trucks, like,
Super
where they
Swampers or something like that, yeah.
yeah, so, yeah,
Well, I'm hoping to have the hood on the Chevelle for the no names, but
mm,
I'm not gonna make any promises, I'll see.
yeah,
I don't think I'll have the Craigers on,
yeah,
um, because I just can't do tires right now because
mm,
everything's just so much money, and it's either paint or tires, and I
mm,
can't do both, so
yeah,
and I've been looking around for used tires,
yeah,
just to see if I could just get something to throw on, even if I find some wide tires for the back and just go buy some cheapo Pep Boys ones for the front,
mm.
but we'll see what happens. I was hoping to get that up to the track this year, but then they raised the prices of test and tune again.
Wow,
So now we're like up to $60 now. I'm
oof,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's
God bless
like,
them. You wanna support them because you wanna be able to keep those, places open, but
Yeah,
And
I
I'm sure
can't
their
do
insurance
60
and their
bucks.
overhead keeps going up every year no matter what,
I know, but you can't. I mean, 60 bucks and you might get 4 runs in. Now,
Yeah.
if I put it in like a trophy class and and
Mhm.
run eliminations or whatever, I mean, I might get, 1 or 2 time runs and then, just an elimination run to see if I can make it. But
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to go up there and do any of that but that's the only way you'd be able to really make it worth your while to try and get as many runs in.
Mhm.
But so I don't know. I probably won't have any testing. And I've been looking for stickier tires, and I haven't really been able to find any of that either.
Yeah.
Trying to find just a used set to throw on. So I don't know. I'll probably try and make some passes at the no names, but it's
Yeah.
probably not going to be very eventful because I
Joe
figure
mo
traction's
mentioned
going to
in
be.
Joe mentioned in the, chat group about, um, Ryan taking his car to the track, and he mentioned, like, have Mark take you to the track, and I'm like, "That'd be kind of fun, get Ryan out to the track with his Super Bee." Or
Yeah,
not his Super Bee, but his Cornet.
yeah, yeah. Because he's bringing that one. I
Yeah.
thought about calling him out for shits and grins
It'd be yeah, I think it'd be cool.
because they'll both be on street tires. Because I'm not, like I said, the chances of me finding a set of drag radials is slim to none. I find them, but then they're like 150, 200 miles away, and it's like it's
Mhm.
not worth the aggravation.
No.
So you know,
No,
so
they don't give drag radials away, that's for sure.
no, guy had a set of Mickey Thompson ET Streets, $375, and he
Yeah.
said he had 10 miles on the damn things, and I was like, and I was like, shit. But I
Mhm.
just don't have the $375 sitting around, so it's
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
yeah, and stuff's just been tight, and ever since the Firebird, I just haven't really. It's like I get some money saved up, and then I do a whole bunch of shit, and then I'm
Yeah,
all out of money again. So
yeah.
and
McMillan's
now that
back.
it's
He found us.
oh, he came back.
Yeah,
So ever since the steering deal, you know, I've been kind of tapped out a little bit.
yeah,
So and then I'm trying to sell stuff on Marketplace, and I can't sell anything because nobody's buying nothing. So
yeah. Yeah, I haven't really tried to sell too much on Marketplace.
I sell wheels and tires really good. I can get rid of wheels and tires. It's
Mm,
like everything else and carburetors.
yeah,
Everything else I can't get rid of,
yeah. You
you
couldn't get
know?
carburetors around me anywhere, especially before, back to the 50s. Because when I picked up those carburetors for the blower, I asked them if they had like a 750 vacuum secondary carb laying around, because I knew I was going to need one for my truck. And they're like, nope, everything they got was sold. And then Ryan always has all those carburetors laying around too. And he didn't have anything. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
people are
Well,
snatching up
there's
all the
no
core.
shortage of snatching up all the cores, yeah. Well, there's no shortage of carburetors around here. I mean, I find them.
Mm,
It's just that guys ask so much money for them. It's just
yeah.
ridiculous,
Especially when
and
you
then
don't
you
know
gotta
what's all been done to them too. I mean, you almost have to
well,
take it
yeah.
way back to square one, look up their numbers and take them all the way back. And then that's hoping that they didn't drill anything out.
Well, they set them it sits on the shelf for 20 years, and then they think, "Oh, I think I'm just gonna go and, you
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna sell all these carburetors,"
Mm,
and they ask $200 for something that's been sitting for 20 years on the shelf,
yeah.
needs rebuilt. And it's like, well, come on, dude. I'm already behind the eight ball on this deal. I mean, and carburetor kits haven't gotten any cheaper. So,
Yeah. Well, the good thing is I've got a brand new Holly jet kit and a whole bunch of gaskets that I put together like a race box for the jack pine.
hmm
So I've got a box with like the tools you need to work on a carburetor, and then extra set of spark plugs, and then the jet kit and all those gaskets and stuff. Uh, so I've already got that. Good to go. Just nothing to use them on right now.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to No Name Nationals again this year. It'll be fun to see everybody again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure what Riley wants to go,
Mm,
but he's probably going to bring his Trans Am. I don't think he's going to have his Buick done.
yeah,
So, because he
yeah.
didn't get the engine, hasn't even started putting the engine in that thing yet.
And then
So
would
I think
Marty
he's going
wanna
to bring.
drive his would he Marty wanna drive his Cutlass that far?
No, they want to trailer them. They
Yeah.
want to trailer both of them. They want to get a 2-car trailer,
Mhm.
because Riley's dad has a Duramax they can haul it with,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they want to get a trailer, and they want to trailer them both out. I don't know why Marty won't drive it. It's only
Yeah,
got 308 gears in it,
yeah.
so I can't. It'll cruise down the highway. I mean, I ran it down the highway. It'll
Mm.
run down the highway just fine, but I don't know.
McMillan
They don't want to drive it.
Cattle Company there was talking about how, he got a '77 GMC truck as a work truck, but now it's turned into an accidental project. It always starts where I'm just gonna change one thing, I'm just gonna change one thing, and then, well,
Yeah,
if I'm in there and I'm doing that, I might as well.
yeah, exactly. I know how that goes.
Well,
That's
that's
how
where
the
that
Firebird ended up.
yeah, and that's how my truck engine ended up. I was just gonna throw a cam I had in there, and an intake I had on it, and that's it, no worries, it's a $600 engine. Now it's probably about, at least a $1,500 engine.
Just turns into a can of worms.
Now it owes me
That's
something. Before, it didn't owe me anything. Now it owes me everything. It better make 1,000,000 horsepower, it better get 22 miles per gallon.
better be able to smoke all 4 of them 35-inch tires when I get done with it.
Yeah, uh,
Oh,
but yeah,
man.
and well, then, like I said, yeah, it's like, we were all ready to do, like, a one-day video of, like, putting that cam in properly and then sealing up the engine. And then it's like, well, now I'm taking the heads to the machine shop. They'll be back by the weekend. So I'm like, that's fine. I'll just pause the video. And then on the weekend, I'll finish the video on the engine. Well, the heads weren't done. Well, then during that time, I changed cams. So I'm like, okay, when the cam comes, we'll do the bottom part. Well, the cam that was in it was a single bolt cam, so my timing chain was a single bolt, timing chain, and I didn't know to look at that, so when I ordered the Lunati cam, it's a 3-bolt cam, so I
Oh,
didn't
so
have a
you had to get
3-bolt
a new
timing chain,
timing chain.
so I had to order that from Summit, so Summit finally sent the 3-bolt timing chain, so we did that, and so the whole short block's all together with the oil pan and everything, and everything's all sealed up. We just gotta put the heads in the intake and the carb on it now, so once we get the heads, it'll go quick. I'm hoping we'll get them by this weekend.
Got a new Quadrajet, and I'm putting all new AC in it, and it's still a turd.
I dig
Oh,
quadrajets
look,
though.
at least you'd be driving around in a nice, cool AC turd.
Mm. Yowie Man was saying in Arizona there's a lot of trucks with no air conditioning going cheap. I actually the air conditioning's out on my Silverado right now,
Yeah,
which
it's
it
been
doesn't
out on
bother
my
me.
doesn't
I
bother
don't
you.
live in Arizona either. I did a seasonal stint down in Yuma, and it was like 117 degrees on some days. So even if you rolled the window down, it's just like a hot dryer blowing you straight in the face.
Face.
No relief. At least here in Minnesota, it cools off at night. So, but
Yeah, the
yeah,
AC's been broken in my 200, my Chrysler, since last summer, so
mm,
and I just haven't fixed it. And we've already had these 90-degree days already, and it's like I'm probably not even gonna mess with it.
mm.
And I don't feel like working on the stupid thing.
And I don't want you to put vintage air on my Firebird either. I just, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it not having air conditioning.
Oh, freaking Tom was out there the other day. Let's put vintage air on it. I'm like, no, I'm not going through that nonsense. Leave it alone.
McMillan's got 4 Chevy Loves and 2 D50s. I like the D50s. I think they're pretty cool. Um, uh, uh, Dirthead Dave. Used to be on Motor Trend on Demand with Dirt Every Day or whatever.
Uh-huh.
He has a YouTube channel, and he just picked up a little D50 that was really a little sweetheart of a truck, and he got it running and he lowered it. Looks really cool. And I'm looking forward to when Battery and Productions gets that 360 and their little D50. It's gonna be a hot rod.
We had a D50 when I worked at the parts store that we used to use as a delivery vehicle. That
Mm,
little Mitsubishi, that little son of a bitch would run. I like that
mm,
truck. It
yeah.
ran good. We had the least problems with that stupid thing.
Mm. It's
Oh,
funny in
diesel.
hindsight, some of the cars and stuff that we took for granted, that you never even thought you would ever think about again, you start to kind of think about, like, just like a nice, good running Vega, with a
Oh,
four
yeah.
speed, you know, just something to put around in. It would be cooler than
Yeah.
driving like a modern Honda Civic or something. Not that I don't mind. I like Honda Civics. Don't get me wrong. I had one, um, but just and like a D50. Something cheap, fun. You could drive around, keep it nice and clean,
And they're simple.
and you don't ever
There's
see
really
them.
nothing to them.
People don't know
Oh,
what they.
no. No, because they all rotted away or disappeared.
And I always like those like Subaru Brats too that had the seats in the back. I always thought those were kind of cool.
Yeah, they rusted so bad, though. You see them
But
very rarely. Like, they've been popping up. A couple of them have been popping up on Marketplace here recently, but
mm,
because they used to make those and they used to have T-tops. Did you ever see them with the little T-tops in them?
no, I never saw a Brat with a T
Yeah.
top.
Yeah. They made brats with T-tops in them. Yeah.
Yeah, Macmillan, a big block Gremlin would be fun. I always thought Gremlins were cool too. Yeah, yeah. A lot of those little cars, like, well, a friend of mine in high school, we gave him a lot of shit, but he drove a Pacer, and I'm like, dude, a Pacer would be freaking wicked to just have as a driver. It doesn't have to be a hot rod. I guess that now that I'm older, everything I have doesn't have to be a hot rod. Be nice just to have something clean, that you don't see every day that is dependable. I say that, and of course, I'm building two hot rods. I'm putting a 440 in a truck with a 318 in it already. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. It's two T-top brats.
yeah, yeah.
Brats
If
were neat.
I thought about just like because I keep looking to maybe upgrade my truck, but I don't want to have a car payment or anything, and then to get a diesel is so expensive, and if you get like you don't really want like a 6.4 Hemi or something like that that's got over 140,000 miles on it. So you're kind of like, well, what the hell do you get? And I'm like, well, my truck, get the air conditioning fixed and leave it where it's not my daily driver and buy something. I kind of like those Subaru Crosstechs. I mean, they're a nothing
Hmm.
little commuter car, but they make lift kits for them. So they look kind of cool if you put like a little bit of a lift kit on it and, some knobby tires and stuff. It'd be kind of a fun little runaround car that gets good gas mileage. So kind of toyed around with that.
I'd like to find just a clean, shitty little fucking Cavalier to run around.
Hmm.
Even little freaking four-cylinder or even a V6.
Cash for Cars got rid of
Simplicity.
all
I know. I know. Like,
that.
why can't I just find a simple freaking little Cavalier to drive
Like, where did
back
all
and
the
forth to work
Cavaliers
in?
go? Oh, Cash for Cars.
Yeah, cash for clunkers. And the funny part is that they get like 30 miles to the gallon.
I know.
I mean, they just run forever. The stupid little GMs are just, all of them, the Buicks and all
Yeah.
that crap. They just run.
Mm.
They had their issues, but
I
you
remember when
know,
the quad fours were the hot cars.
oh Jesus,
Little Grand Ams and stuff with the quad four.
yeah. Well, then they had one that was like the poser quad for you. Pop the hood and it had that same big air clean or big valve cover thing on it, the
Oh
plastic
yeah.
cover. but instead of dual overhead cam, it said single overhead cam. But it just faked you out because the plastic cover for the valve cover was just it was the same one.
Yeah.
But
You see every once in a while people post like, "I don't know why you guys all like those muscle cars because they were slow from the factory," like, they only ran like 14 or like 15-second quarter miles and stuff, and I go, "You didn't live through like 1979 through 1982." There were no cars at that time that had any kind of power whatsoever, and
yeah,
the cars that
they
did
don't
have
un
power were lucky to have 100 horsepower, you know?
yeah, they don't get it. They don't
They didn't
understand.
live through the drought. They grew up
Yes.
with 5.7 Hemis and, like, Mustang GTs and 5.0s, Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
there's a reason
500
the Grand
horse.
National was the fastest production car, even faster than the Corvette back when that was the thing, and they weren't even that fast.
No, no. There's a guy that has, like, if you search it out on here, Mark, it's pretty funny. They got the pure stock drags. Remember
Okay,
in,
yeah,
like, the
yeah,
late '80s when they started doing the pure stock drags,
yeah.
like, Muscle Car Review and shit would do
Mhm.
that. And some guy there's, like, a whole video series on YouTube, and it's funny to watch because 'cause you're watching some of these guys with these, you know, big block cars, and they're just not
Mm,
running. And even some of the modern cars were actually pretty sad. You would have thought that they would have run a little bit better, and,
yeah.
there's a couple of them where it's like, well, I would have been embarrassed if they'd announced that time for what I ran. But
Well, that's why I
it's
said
kind of
it's kinda hard to explain to people that when I had my GTO, it was one of the baddest cars around, and it was a 400 with like a Lana it had a Lanati cam in it. It was a 4-speed with 391 gears. It was probably a 13-second car at best. But back then, driving around, that was a beast.
well, yeah, 13-second car was fast then.
Mhm.
A 13-second car now is pretty quick now. I mean, they
People
don't
would be
think about
surprised if you didn't tell someone how fast your car is, and it was a 13-second car, and they sat beside you in a passenger seat, and you had a stretch of open road in front of you where it was perfectly safe, and you got all over it, and the torque kind of lifts up the back of the car. You can feel the wheels spin, and then just the whole way the suspension and stuff settles on a car like that. You'd be surprised. You could lie to them and tell them that it had at least 200 more horsepower than it did, just because they would think it did because of the way it felt.
yeah,
Because they haven't
yeah.
really sat in a car like that before and experienced the thrill of what it really feels like. All they know is like from watching like YouTube videos and stuff where you got to have 1,000 horsepower. You know?
You don't need to have that. I mean, you know, and the thing of it is like even a 14-second car, you figure an average muscle car weighs 3,500 pounds up.
Oh yeah.
So, you're running 14 seconds in a 3,800 pound car. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's pretty respectable when you really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even if you're doing that in a 13-second car, because
Mm-hmm.
in order to run 13 seconds flat, you got to have 300 horse to the wheels in a 3,500 pound car.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're running anywhere in the 13s in a car that weighs anywhere between 38 to 4,000 pounds, like a Chevelle or a
Mm-hmm.
Goat or whatever, because most of the time they're loaded with power steering and everything else,
Yeah.
you're making the engine's making some power,
Yeah.
and people fail to realize that.
Yeah.
They're all stuck on these power numbers and bullshit, and I got to make 700 horsepower just so I can be cool. And the other drawback to that is that you can't put it to the ground. What's the
Yeah.
sense? You
Mhm.
know, or you build a 700 horse engine, and then you stick it in a car, and then you put, the 20-inch tires on it with the freaking sidewall that's this
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
you know, and you lay into it, and all it does is go up because there's no
Mm.
freaking the whole,
Leverage.
yeah, there's no give in the sidewall. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's the thought process on everything. It's like everybody's been hoodwinked by the magazines and,
Mhm.
you know, in whatever's on YouTube. I mean, everybody seems to think you got to make all this power, but you don't.
And I got swept up in that. Like I said, if my original plan was to sell my Harley and build a 440 and maybe at best put a 4-speed in my satellite, and had I stayed with my original plan and had like a 3 to 400 horsepower 440 in my satellite, I probably never would have went down the road that I went, you know? I'd have been
Yeah.
having just driving my car around and, you know, but instead I wound up building that 723 horsepower 512 and I'm like, "Oh." Now I gotta re-engineer the whole car, you know? You can't
Well,
just put
yeah, and that's the
transmission behind it. You
that's
can't put just any rear end in it. You can't you have to make sure the chassis doesn't flex in half. You have to, you know, and then it's just, yeah, it gets out of control.
yeah, you got to upgrade everything from the flywheel to the rear end because
Mhm.
it's all gonna you all gotta it all has to handle everything that's gonna get thrown at it. So,
Mhm.
that's
Well,
another
and like
drawback.
when Mater was talking about the converter, yeah, I mean, you can have the monster engine and you can have the right transmission and you can have the right rear end, but if that converter doesn't tell it all how to talk to each other, you know, you're gonna
Yeah.
be leaving something on the table, you know? Uh, that's
Yeah,
one.
it's just I don't know. I don't know why people get so caught up in these power numbers, you know. Oh,
I don't
and
know why
I have
people
guys
put.
ask me "Well, how much horsepower do you think it?" Dude, I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, the
Yeah,
horsepower numbers are bullshit. The
yeah,
dyno is a tool.
yes.
It's a tool to tune and optimize everything.
The
And the
only
only way you
reason
know you're optimizing is if you're getting higher horsepower.
the only reason I want to dyno this low compression engine is one, YouTube content. I think it'll be kind of cool, you know, low
Yeah.
compression 440. What can you do to it? Did I make a mistake by over camming it? You know, this kind of thing and that. You know, plus since it's a new cam, I'm going to get to break in my cam, and I'm going to be able to kind of set my carburetor up in the timing. So before I go to put it in the truck, you know it's a good running engine and we'll have a ballpark of where it needs to be tuned for me to be able to drive it, you know,
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of, you know, because otherwise, you know, why put an engine on a run stand then, you know, if you're people are like, oh, you know, don't need to dyno. Well, it's even pointless to put it on a running stand, you know,
Yeah.
because if you're gonna break in the cam, why not break it in on a dyno, you
Oh, yeah. It just seems like everybody lives and breathes these power numbers, and
know?
it's
Yeah.
I pissed off a lot of people with that comment.
Mhm.
"Well, it makes 600 horsepower." Well, what's a turn?
Mhm.
What's
Yeah.
what's a turn and a quarter?
Mhm.
I mean, the power number's bullshit unless it's gonna run something. You know what I mean? And
And
that's
when you
just where it all
reverse
boils down to.
And when you reverse calculated the jack pine, it was putting 500 to the rear wheels. You know, the engine
Yeah.
on the dyno made 619 horsepower. You know, so you're like, well, that's kind of how much your
That's
drivetrain
your
and everything
yeah,
eats.
20
You know,
yeah,
it eats
20
about
to
119
40%.
horsepower.
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing with this blower engine. You know, the blower is going to take, I forget how much horsepower they say just to run the blower. And it's almost like 50 to 75 horsepower just to run the blower. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, so, you know,
That's the
it's all
trade-off
relative.
to the blower, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Do we
I'm
know
just
anything about Mustang GTs? McMullen's asking us if we know anything about '68 Mustang GTs.
I do not.
What do you need to know? Is it a Cobra Jet?
Well, that's just it. Was the GT an option on Mustangs in '68?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the GT you could get it was just an appearance package
Okay.
on the Mustang. You could get a GT with a 289 two-barrel all the way up to the 428 Cobra Jet. Well, the
And
Cobra Jet was a half-year thing.
and they also had like a 289 high output one time.
Yeah, but I think
That
the
was in
high
the earlier
output
like 64, 65s, I think.
I think they did that engine till '67, and then
Yeah.
after '67 and '68, they went to the They went to the 302 4 barrel,
Yeah.
which made more horsepower than the 289.
Yeah.
Well, you found one in your grandparent, by or near your grandparents. Why want to get rid of it?
Now is the GT a fastback or a notchback? Because fastback's always going to fetch
Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
going to fetch more money because the J code is the 302. The S code would be the 390 hypo.
Mm,
Our code should be 428.
yeah.
I'm not sure what the
Oh, it's a
289 is
fast.
because I don't really pay much attention to the 289 cars.
Yeah.
If it's a 302 and up, I kind of have an interest, but not that the 289 is not a bad engine. It's just if I want a GT, I want to at least have something in it.
When I was at back to the 50s, there were some Galaxies there that were super nice. There was one in my video. It's a blue one, and underneath the hood, it had a 390, and he had the chrome Thunderbird valve covers on
Valve
it,
covers.
and it had three two barrels, and it was a super clean car. And I was looking, and I looked behind it, and there's this guy. He looked like he's probably about like 90 years old, sitting not in a wheelchair, but in a chair. So I went up and talked to him, and I could barely hear him because of all the noise and stuff. And he kind of talked so quietly, and and man, it was fun just talking to him because he was telling me like, yeah, I was uh, staying in a hotel in somewhere in South Dakota, out in the middle of nowhere, and some college kids were driving the car, and they couldn't get it to start, and somehow they wound up having a carb fire, and it burnt the hood and then like part of the top of one of the fenders. So they abandoned the car.
Oh, Jesus.
So the guy at the gas station I think he said he bought it from him for like $50, and he took it home and he like fixed the fire and that anyway. He goes and then he kept telling me like and that's a Cop 390 engine that he took home and he completely rebuilt. He put the three two barrels on there, and then he was telling me how he made the traction bars for it. So I made sure to get down there underneath the car and kind of look at the traction bars and stuff. And he'd done some pretty trick stuff to it, but it looked like just a super clean Galaxy. Had slot wheels on it, but I mean that was my favorite part of the whole show, was sitting there talking to him. Just this old guy, and you could tell like nobody else had even talked to him. And he was like, I'm pretty sure he probably had other family there because otherwise he's a pretty spry guy to have driven there all by himself. But the whole time I was talking to him, nobody was around, and that, and just him sitting there, and he got a kick telling me all the stories about the car, and that's what I love about like this whole car hobby. That's what I live for, to meet a guy like him and just sit there under a
Yeah.
tree in the shade talking to him about how he got this car and how he used to like race his buddies. He had a story where like I think I don't know what had it in it originally, but his buddy would always beat him, and then he wound up getting that 390 all hopped up and stuff, and then they raced again, and he beat his buddy, and those kind of stories. So that was a blast. But then there's
Well,
a
if it's
white
a
one there, and the white one I know at one time had a one of those, double overhead cam, uh, the cammers, the big block Fords that, uh, they built for NASCAR. At one time it
oh,
had
the 427. Yeah.
yeah, at one time it had one of those in it, but this year it had what looked like a super hopped up big block, like a 460 stroked or something with aluminum heads and that. But so I don't know if he got big money for that engine or what, but that was a cool car too, white with a 4-speed.
Hmm.
And of course, I always love the old big Pontiacs too. There's a
Oh, I
couple
love big
driving around there.
I love big Pontiacs. So you think it's a 428 or 390? Well, it's probably a 390 if it's a 428. That's like a holy grail. That was a half year production in 68, and they didn't make very many of them.
And my uncle
Um,
had one. He bought it brand new, and he said, I want to say he kept saying kept warping the heads. I don't know. He had nothing but
mm,
problems with like head gaskets and stuff, and he wound up getting rid of it pretty quickly. So that's the only thing I
yeah,
know
that'd
about
be
over jets.
be interesting to see what that is, because if it's a 390, it's it's worth quite a bit of money if the guy knows what he has. He
And if
says
it's
he
a
also found a
58,
68 Charger near him. Yours grandparents also.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be buku bucks.
Even when Dukes of Hazzard was going on, I always thought of Chargers as a cruiser car, you know, a
Mm.
car that you piled all your buddies in. I never thought of them as being fast. I always thought of them as just being a cool car that you put mag wheels on and drove around with your buddies, you know.
Well, they're a big damn car.
Yeah.
And a Gremlin and a Trans Am. Wow, you're finding all kinds of neat stuff.
That's like Cullen, my buddy who owns 111 Customs. He's out in a small town outside of Mankato, and there's all kinds of little farm towns all around that area. And you'd
Mhm.
be amazed at what a lot of those old farmers have in their garages.
Oh, yeah, I can
Out in
imagine.
the pole barn in the sheds, you know?
Yeah, they just shove it in there and forget about it, and
One of them is a guy that had that, 396 four-speed big block '69 Camaro that he is having him put an LS in with an automatic
why?
because he's had the car his entire life, and he doesn't think it's worth anything. He just wants to drive it now, go get ice cream with his grandkids, you know, with the air
Yeah,
conditioning
but
on.
you can do that with the 396. Why do these guys get this shit in their head that you can't drive a carbureted car? That's
Yeah.
what I don't understand.
Well, if you don't drive, if you just take it out every spring, you know, you let it sit all winter with gas in there and just crappy gas, modern gas and stuff, and you know, you let it sit
Yeah,
for
but I
eight
don't
months, it's not going to run good, you know.
well neither's a fuel injected car.
Mm,
So, I mean, it's the same either way.
yeah.
I just don't understand this whole fascination with this carburetor. Like, nobody, it's like carburetors, like they're all scared of them. And I don't know.
Well,
I
now
talked
that
to
I'm
guys
learning
and
more about them, I'm more thrilled about them. Now that I'm starting to actually kind of gain some experience on how to do stuff, I'm like, I want to get more into the tuning a carburetor. I want to get more into timing. I want to, that stuff's like starting to fascinate me more. Before I was always about, does the car look cool? Do I look cool in the car? And then, hey, my car's broke. What do you mean broke? Well, it's broke. Now I'm
I
still
don't
the same
know.
guy, but I can at least name the parts.
That's a power valve.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what this big bullshit is with car. Everybody acts like it doesn't run.
mm,
I went to Mississippi and I was talking to this guy and he's like, "What do you got in your Chevelle?" I said, "Oh, 468." Really? I'm like, "Yeah." Is it fuel injected? I'm like, "No." I just looked at him like, "Really? Like, what the fuel injection? That's like below me, dude."
yeah.
And he's like, "Well, you should put an LS in that." And I kind of looked at it. I gave him that, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" look. And I was just
Well,
like, seriously?
well, back in the late '50s and that, when they built those fuel injected Corvettes, didn't they always rip the fuel injection off because the fuel injection didn't work worth a shit? You had to put a
Well, that's
carburetor
the
on it.
problem. The problem with that is that the mechanics, they didn't have the training for them. Because it was actually a really reliable system if you
Mm,
really learned it, because it's mechanical.
yeah.
If but guys just it was this new fangled thing and nobody wanted
Mm,
to learn how to work on it. So if it went wrong, guys would just rip them off and just put carburetors on them and be done with it,
yeah.
you know? I mean, it was a really good, I mean, I'm not against fuel injection, but I don't, I don't know what this fascination is with putting fuel injection on everything that, or LSing it for that matter and doing all
And that's
it's
just it.
just not my thing.
If I was building an engine that was originally designed for fuel injection, I would want fuel injection on it. And I could see where maybe fuel injection might be like if you got something that's kind of forgiving, like turbos and stuff, where you can probably get more benefit from the fuel injection than by trying to get a blow through carb to work as good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could understand it and that, but Yeah, if I'm, like, wanting something with fuel injection, I'm gonna, like, buy a more modern car, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like with the 5-liter Mustang, obviously you'd wanna keep the fuel injection on that, only
Mm,
it's a simple system that works.
mm,
Now the TBI and like a Camaro or a Firebird, well, I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, it's a good system, but they had their issues.
yeah.
But, you know, but that's the kind of car you'd wanna keep fuel injected,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, you know? But, I don't know. Well, me and Marty had this I don't know if we touched on that in that video or not about the LS. Well, he did in that
Oh,
one
yeah.
video
Mm.
about putting LSs in. There's just certain cars you just don't put LSs in,
Yeah,
and that one of them was that GTO convertible that he had in that video, because I was with him when he took the video of that
yeah,
car, and we were walking up on it, and I thought, "Man, it looked nice," but it had big wheels on it, so I already
mm,
knew that something stupid was going on.
yeah,
And he Marty got to it before I did, and he goes, "You're not gonna like this." And I walked up and I looked and I just walked away because it's nothing to look at. It's just a modern piece of shit with a plastic intake manifold that's ugly. I mean, I know it runs good and I know they make power and I get it, I
mm.
understand. But my whole thing is that's not the car to put it in, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Well
I mean, even if it's a Le Mans, it's not the car to put it in.
well, when I was making my video for Back to the '50s, there's not a single car in there that I did a video of that has a LS in it, and there were probably
Mhm.
quite a few there that had them. And, like, sometimes I was disappointed when I walked around and saw that they had one in it. Now, if it's the kind of car that you're not gonna open the hood on usually and you're gonna just drive, I can see doing it. But, I guess, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm somewhat disappointed, not horribly, but a little bit when I look at, like, a '67 GTO or Le Mans, it's got a big block Chevy in it. You know?
See, that doesn't bother me because that was a thing
I
back in the
understand it,
day.
I'm a lot more forgiving now than I would have been when I was younger and I was a more of a Pontiac fanatic, but I'm like,
Yeah.
"Dude, whatever you got, put in there." So if you do just happen to have an LS and put it in there, then God bless you, you got another car on the road and you're having fun. Am I gonna wanna look at it? Probably not. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
The whole
then they're
big
not
block
gonna wanna look
Chevy
at
and
what I got. Same guy's probably gonna be like, "Ah, that's dinosaur technology. I don't like that guy's car."
yeah. Well, I think that's part of the problem with the hobby. Everybody gets these,
Mm.
they get these ideas in their head and,
And all it takes
I
is,
should
like, 1 to 2 sentences between guys from both sides until they meet common ground, and they're just regular car guys again, having a good time talking about their cars. I mean, it's like one of those biases that's, like, skin deep. It's like, if you're a true car guy and a guy with a GTO with an LS pulled up beside you, you're gonna kind of flick him just a bit of shade, he's gonna flick it back at you, and then within 2 more, like, sparring little sessions back and forth, next thing you know, you're just 2 car guys hanging out with your cars, having a good time.
yeah. I don't know. I try to see the bright side of things.
Mm,
Like I said, I know why they put them in. I
mm,
mean, they make stupid power easy, you know. I mean, you go get a junk 5.3 out of a truck somewhere and jam it
mm,
in and bolt a bunch of eBay turbos on it and tune
mm.
it, and now you're making all this power on an engine that'll probably last a while.
Yeah. I think you just froze up, Chris. Anyway, I don't know if you noticed, Chris, but on my screen you froze or either that or I froze. I don't know which. If people are in the chat, if one of you guys would let us know, is it Chris that's frozen or is it me? Oh, I think I just lost Chris. I don't know if I can get Chris back in here. Sorry, guys. I think we lost Chris for a little bit. I'll see if he can log back in here. But anyway, we were kind of talking about different cars at car shows, and I always like the ones that make me stop and look again. I know there was like a green GMC truck. It was a step side, and it was a long box, and it was lowered, and it looked really nice, and it had the bigger steel wheels on it, like you'd have on like a 1 ton.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are, Chris.
I
I
said I
lost
was
you for a minute.
Okay, yeah, my phone overheated.
Oh, okay.
So you're hang on a second, Mark.
Yeah. But anyway,
What was that, Kim?
I said I would
that
call
GMC
her.
truck, it had
Uh-huh.
the steel wheels on it. That was like a 1 ton.
Okay,
It actually was a dually, but you couldn't
okay.
see it until you kind of looked because the truck was lowered. So I did a video of showing that it, like, from behind where you could see that it was a dually, and then I did a walk around the truck, and that was like one of the things I like when I'm looking at cars, is something that's subtle like that. That, like, when you do see it, it's like, man, that's amazing. You know.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it says my phone's
Huh.
overheating.
You're just too hot, Chris.
It just, I guess so.
It's like a Chevy.
I
It's
guess
going to
so.
overheat.
Oh wow, here we go. Here we go. Right away. Got to pick.
Yeah.
You'll like the Chevelle.
Oh yeah.
You won't admit it. You won't admit it. You'll get in
No,
it,
dude.
and you'll be.
I'm actually, like, that thrills me. The idea of like flying out there and riding down to No Name Nationals with you, because just be a road trip in a muscle car. We'll have to try to get into a street race with people on the way there, and who knows? Maybe some crazy guy in an orange GTO will want to follow us around the country.
Go find some sleepy town somewhere and find out where they all hang out and go run somebody off and down in some 2 lane or somewhere for a couple $100.
But the problem with our team will be is you're the driver and the mechanic.
All you got to do is just sit there and go, it's not breathing right. You got to
Yeah.
change the jets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, you're more than welcome. Whatever you want to do, Mark.
And when you talk about like movies like that, hey, there's Jeff, Mopar Jeff 604. I was over at his house earlier. When you talk about like car movies, everyone talks about 2 lane blacktop, but I can barely watch the movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
The trick of it is just to skip the specific scenes,
yeah,
like the opening scene with the uh, United Racer guys. That's a pretty
yeah,
good one. And
yeah.
then you skip around to the next time.
Mm.
Just the car scenes is all because the whole dialogue and the idea of the whole freaking movie is just stupid.
Well, I remember when I was like
But
12 or 13, and I would go down to the basement and watch HBO at night when my parents didn't know it, so I could see boobs. Hollywood Nights would be on all the time, and I thought that was one of the best movies I'd ever seen. And a while back, some guys were talking about car movies, and so I went back to rewatch it, and I'm like, oh, I bought it because I'm like, I know I like this movie. And as I was watching, I'm like, oh my god, it's not even funny anymore. you know,
yeah,
it's kind of
it's
hard to
like
watch because it's
you get
so cheesy. But the
you
cars
get
are awesome in it, and I don't regret it for that because a lot of cool cars. But yeah, American Graffiti is probably one of the best car movies out there. That and Dazed and Confused. Um,
yeah. Dazed and Confused is pretty good.
they
That's
got a
a pretty
primer
decent
duster in
movie.
there, so that's that is period correct. All dusters were in primer back in the late 70s. Right, Jeff? Jeff's an A-body guy. Yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid, there was another movie that was about cars too. Danny DeVito, and it was actually about custom vans.
Yeah, the van.
Yeah, yeah, you remember that movie
Yeah,
too?
yeah,
What happened
and
to
it's
all those movies, man?
it's the
All of them had
extended
water beds
van,
and
the
yeah,
water bed in the back. Yeah, yep, yeah, that's the van.
yeah.
And what's the other one? Pom Pom Girls. Did you ever
Okay.
see that one with the '55 Chevy?
Uh, Not so much, I guess. I might, maybe
There's
not.
there's scenes of it on YouTube here. I used to
I was
watch
gonna
all that cheesy California movies when USA used to put that crap on late at night,
yeah,
when USA actually was like a decent channel.
yeah. Yeah, another favorite movie of mine when I was a kid was, Corvette Summer, with Mark Hamill.
Yeah, that's not too bad of a movie. I wish
Yeah.
the car was cooler though. I wasn't too hip on
When
the
I was a
Corvette.
kid, I always liked, like, when I was young enough and I first saw the movie, I liked the Corvette, but it was shortly after that that the Firebird became my favorite car, and that's why
Yeah, the
we've had
Firebird's
that
much
talk
cooler.
before. Oh,
Yeah,
I'd
the
still love to
Firebird
get
is
like a
way cooler.
71, 72, 73 Firebird and put the Trans Am and the Formula scoops on it, paint it all black. That's my dream car, man, right there. Except it'd probably have Kragers instead of the Pontiac wheels, you know?
Yeah. Gumball Rally's another good one too. Did you ever see Gumball
Yeah,
Rally?
yeah, that and there
Yeah.
were some ball movies too, but I think
Yeah.
Gumball was maybe the better of them. I'm not sure.
Yeah. There was Cannonball with uh
There's one where
the
David
guy that
Carradine drove a Trans Am, like a '73
yeah,
Trans
that's
Am or something.
yeah, that's Cannonball.
Okay,
And then Gumball Rally was the other one.
it was a
But
bit funnier and
Gumball
run.
Rally's a good flick.
Yeah.
And then there's always used cars.
Oh, that is the best. I
Yeah.
loved that movie when I was a kid. You know, the commercial they made where they were blowing cars
Yeah.
up.
Freaking ripped their top off and cuts into the
Ah,
broadcast and
shooting a shotgun. Uh, that was when,
or
like,
where
I mean, yeah. Well,
they
when I was a
buried him in
kid,
the car.
you always saw Kurt Russell in Disney movies. He was clean cut, teenager in all the Disney movies. And so the first time I saw used cars, I'm like, what's he doing in this movie? Uh, but yeah, that's I got to watch that again. It's been forever since I saw that movie.
Yeah, Marty's been watching it. I don't know if he finished it or not. I said, "I'm not gonna tell you because he's never seen it." I said, "I'm not
Yeah,
gonna tell you the end of it."
yeah.
I like when they buried him in the freaking Etzel, and his brother comes walking over, and the dog's sitting there scratching at the dirt. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" And he got the big pile of dirt with it, and then they had to dig his ass up, and they're sitting there, and he goes, "Oh, where is he?" And and then he's like, "Oh, here he comes. What is he drunk?" And then he hits the freaking power lines and blows the freaking Etzel up, and I was like, "Jesus Christ." That's a good flick.
The Edsel's another car. I always remembered people giving shit to Edsels, and I never understood the. When I was a kid, I didn't understand, like why, like when people were talking about cars that were lemons, they would talk about Edsels all the time when I was a kid. And then I finally grew up and figured out, like, the story behind the Edsel and stuff. There was one at back to the '50s too. There was an Edsel, but just kind of had some quirks and wasn't as popular of a car as they were hoping it would be when it came out. But I guess they had some issues when they were considered kind of a lemon.
They did actual market studies on that car. I think Ford did market studies for like 2 years on that car before they actually started to produce it.
Mm.
And then when they finally released it, it just flopped, and it was
Yeah,
just such a loss of money, you know? And then they had issues with them. I guess there was build issues and stuff like that. And, you know, but yeah, Ford really they really screwed up on that whole deal,
Jeff
even with
saying,
all and the problem was too is that 58 was a recession year.
mm,
So with 58 being a recession year, I guess car sales were in the toilet already.
yeah,
They weren't selling as good as the 57 cars.
yeah,
So that was kind of, one nail in the coffin,
mm,
then on top of the styling that wasn't all that awfully wonderful,
yeah.
you know. And then, people just didn't buy it.
Yeah. Jeff was saying a movie called Catch Me If You Can.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah,
I haven't seen
with
that one.
that
I'm gonna have to
kid.
look that up tonight. See if it's
Yeah, that's like a late '80s movie. Yep.
Hot Rod is actually on YouTube. You can watch the whole movie on YouTube.
Yeah,
I
that was a
watched a lot.
made-for-TV movie, and I've
Yeah,
I've actually watched it.
I remember when I was a kid. I remember the Willys. I'm like, I always thought a Willys was like a fast car, because of that movie.
Yeah,
And when I rewatched it, I'm kind of glad that the way that GM blower was painted that the guy brings him. It's black with the polished ribs. That's what's going on
yeah,
my car. So I'm like, cool. I knew that was
nice.
planted in my brain somewhere at an early age because when I saw it on that Henry J. Gary's, I'm like, that's exactly the type of blower I want on my car.
I like when they pulled a freaking Hemi out of that AMC Matador.
Yes, that's the
That was
best.
the best part of it all.
That was a one of one AMC Matador police car that came with the
Yeah,
426
with the
Hemi,
426 Hemi.
or it might have been a
Oh,
392. Who knows? They didn't say what kind of Hemi it was.
they just said it was a Hemi.
A speed demon. Yeah, yeah. And it's like
Another
this the kids that I work with now that are in their like 20s and stuff, they don't get the whole car thing at all. They don't understand.
Well, I heard the KB Pyrotechnic pistons are a little fragile,
Mm.
and that the Speed Pros are actually a little bit stronger. Now, I don't know about polishing them with the high silicone content, if that's gonna create any kind of heat quench or not.
Yeah.
Because usually guys will get them coated, they'll paint the old trick was to paint the tops of the piston with white VHT exhaust paint. But I'm sure I know they make coatings that you can put on pistons now, but
Mm.
I don't know about polishing them. That's all I can tell you about the KBs, because that's why I didn't run them, because somebody had told me that they were a little fragile. So there's all kinds of myths and shit.
I know Chris Birdsong in some of his videos talked about how some of the engines that he built, he gets like some type of ceramic coating on the pistons and stuff to help with heat.
Hmm. Yeah, they'll do them in white so that it transfers the heat and stuff like that. That's an old school trick. Because like I said, guys used to paint the pistons, with VHT exhaust header paint. No,
Mm.
I don't know how long that would last. I mean,
Yeah.
but back in the day, that's all they had. So,
Mm.
I mean, even if you do polish the piston to clean it up, that'll help with having, taking all the high spots down so you won't have any detonation or anything like that. And even cleaning the chamber up a little bit will help with that too in the head. Because anywhere there's a sharp edge is anywhere that carbon can stick and create a hot spot in the chamber. I don't know. I put Speed Pros in my big block, so
Mm.
I've been pretty happy with them.
Is that a forged piston or is it a?
No, it's a Hypertechnic piston.
Okay.
I To go from that to a forged piston would have been like, I don't know, $500. I mean, depending on the piston you were going to get,
Mm.
because there's better pistons out there than the forged TRWs, because they're pretty heavy.
Mm.
You go with like an Icon or somebody like that, it's a little bit later.
Yeah, when we took my engine apart, Ryan was like not sure if he remembered the guy saying that when they rebuilt it, whether or not they bored it 30 thousandths over and put like flat top pistons in it and stuff. And when we popped the heads off, the pistons were down in the hole, and inside, everything's clean when you look from underneath, like through the crank
Hmm.
and down at the pistons. I mean, the cylinder walls look good, and their pistons are nice. You know, they've got like a Mopar emblem on them. You know, the Pentastar, and then so I'm like,
So they're probably factory
yeah,
pistons
it's
then.
probably just the factory pistons. So I think whoever
Yeah.
built that engine for the guy just put a nice set of 906 heads on it and cast iron 4 barrel intake. You know, and the guy ran it that way, which is perfectly fine. I mean, guy had it in his '67 Charger 4 speed car. You know, I'm sure it was fun to drive. It was still a 440 and a B body with a 4 speed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But my dreams of it having been bored 30 over with already having flat top pistons in it got crushed immediately.
Are you running nitrous speed demon? I don't know why you would run such a big piston ring gap. Minimum of 26. That seems awfully high for piston ring gap. No power adders.
Yeah.
I wonder if I don't understand why they would run such a big piston gap.
Something. I'll be right back.
Okay. Because usually you only want to be, you know, so with the bore size you got, you'd probably want to be like around 16 thousandths or so in that direction, anyways. Unless something's weird with those KB pistons, I don't know. Because I just ran the stock gap on my Speed Pros. I just ran the stock gap, the stock piston ring gap. That's all, you know. I didn't open
Well,
it, didn't
in the
call them
comment
to
up
open it up
above,
or nothing.
in the comment up above, he mentioned something about hearing horror stories. Maybe he could elaborate what he heard. Yeah, Jeff's even saying that sounds like a huge gap for natural aspirated.
Yeah. I mean, if he was running nitrous, I could understand it, but not with naturally aspirated, no power adders or anything.
Hmm.
They're on the directions of the pistons. Okay.
I
Interesting.
know Jeff's built a few small blocks. I don't know if he.
He might have some better information than I do
Yeah.
because I'm more of a GM guy than I am a Chrysler guy. But
Yeah.
usually piston ring gap is usually pretty universal between all the engines.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was just wondering if Jeff ever built an engine with the hyper-eutectic KB pistons.
Oh, I just heard that they're very fragile. They're not as, I mean, they're stronger than a cast piston, but they're not. I heard that they just don't hold up real well.
Yeah.
And I know that the piston rings on the KB are actually they run a thinner piston ring if I'm not mistaken. They don't run like a regular um, 5/16 ring. They run a smaller diameter piston ring
Mm.
on some of their pistons too, if I remember right. Because I know my Speed Pros are just pretty much stock replacements. They're just it's just a hybrid Technic, but it's
Mm.
at least that's what the machine shop guy told me. He said I wouldn't run the KBs. But I know they have a special ring that they use on some of them.
Mm.
So, yeah, I wish I could have put and I didn't put forged pistons in because one, I'm not turning that much RPM.
Mm. Yeah, Jeff said follow the directions. So if that's what it said to do, then I suppose.
Yeah, I guess just do what they said to do.
Mm.
Yeah, it just seems unusual, such a big gap like that. But I figured for what I was doing, I wasn't going to need. I mean, nothing else is really forged in it, so
Mm.
it's weird. How far down in the hole were those pistons on that 440? See how
About
far
an
down they
eighth of
were.
an inch,
Wow.
0.125. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
I know some of those 440s from the 70s, boy, they were 50, there were 50, 60 thousandths in the hole on those things.
yeah, yeah. It's at least I didn't have the dished pistons.
Thank God for that. That'd have even
Yeah.
been worse. Christ, they'd have put, what, 7.5 to 1 probably then?
Then it
You
would have been.
put a freaking supercharger on it.
Yeah. Oh, I was teasing Jeff. We were talking about it earlier today. Like he mentioned wanting to build a like a turbo motor Mopar, but and then I was talking about like those torque storms or the Paxton supercharger,
Hmm.
that there. And it was like that way, if I get buried alive in my truck, I can pour beer on my head and then flick the blower switch like Lone Wolf
Lone Wolf
McQueen.
McQuade come blasting out of the hole in your freaking Ram Charger.
Because you know how often you get buried alive in your truck.
Well, when you're dealing with those Mexican cartels, you do. So,
It
you
happened in
know,
Lone Wolf McQuade. Didn't that happen in Road Warriors or two? Or can't,
no, Lone Wolf McQuade's the one that sticks out in my head.
yeah, yeah,
Because I remember he's sitting down there and he wakes up in the truck and he's all bloodied up and he's bumming the dirt.
yeah,
Freaking hits the key and rips her down in gear and mad at her. And you see the
yeah,
engine picture with the freaking blower spinning up and he just
yeah.
blows out of the hole.
But he
I
poured a
thought,
beer on
my
his head
God.
first, didn't he? Like to wake
Yeah,
himself.
yeah, I think he might have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jeff was saying it was probably a lean burn motor. So
Oh, I'm sure it probably was.
yeah,
That freaking lean burn system. What a freaking joke. That I can't imagine that. Yeah,
yeah.
and
And Jeff
Mad
was
Max, he turns the blower on and off.
yeah. Those were the two examples of that. And Jeff was saying like, yeah, even if he said you probably could do it, but then how's air going to get through to the carburetor if the blower's off? Which because the rotors aren't spinning.
Yeah,
Would enough air get around everything in there to get down to the engine to?
to
Yeah,
make it actually run or not.
yeah,
That is pretty good in Road Warrior though. Guy in the bike takes off and he just yanks the switch up and just runs right up on him and
mm.
runs
Well, I was going to joke around
Coco.
when we finally get the engine and stuff in the truck. It's like, all right, and if I get 10,000 subscribers, I'll put a torque storm on here. Sad part is I'll probably want to do it before then, long before that ever happens. Not within the next 2 years, obviously, but at some point, got to have a blown truck to pull your blown car, around.
You gotta stick all the shit out of the hood of the truck too.
No, it'd be cool if it's
No,
under the hood.
be cool if it's under the hood. Keep it
Yeah,
incognito, huh?
have a centrifugal supercharger on the truck and a roots blower on the car. Um,
Nice.
but you wonder would a turbo work better though? Jeff was talking about like if you put like a small 72 millimeter turbo or something on that truck, it'd probably get better gas mileage and have more power. And
Oh yeah, it would probably work better.
mm.
Yeah, you'd have to, size it up carefully. Could use the cash.
He'll do it for me. All I got to do is pay him.
They sell those blower kits on eBay pretty cheap, Mark.
Yeah, well,
You
not
put one of them
the
Chinese
torque storm
blowers
kit.
on there.
The torque storm kit's over 3 grand for a 440. I'm sure for a
Wow,
Chevy it's like $500, but for a Mopar,
probably. Yeah,
you know,
of course, it's
extra
twice
twenty
the
five
money.
hundred dollars for the Mopar logo.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta pay the premium because of the Pentastar.
Mm.
So,
And
yeah,
I wish I
that
would
would
have.
run pretty good.
I like Chevys well enough. I wish I would have been a more of a Chevy guy instead of chasing that Pontiac and Mopar uh, problems. You know.
Well, Pontiac's like the Mopar of General Motors. Well, all those BOP cars are like the Mopar of General Motors because everything's so expensive for them. 360 supercharged kit is around four to 6 grand.
A- And then Mopar Jeff's like, get a cheap eBay turbo setup. You know,
Mm-hmm.
always pretty reasonable.
As long as Chen put it together right, you'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'll be back in a second, Mark.
All right. But yeah, just gonna be nice to have something fun to drive again. But that none of that's gonna happen probably till at least August. Yeah, I'd have to see, but that's a long time down the road. As far as at least even getting the truck, I was telling Chris earlier, Jeff, that even getting the truck up and running and driving to be able to go to No Name Nationals would be a press because I don't even know what the wheel bearings and stuff are all like in that truck. You know, it's been sitting so long, I don't know, and the tires are all dry rotted. So even if we managed to get the engine done and in the truck and the truck running, to make it roadworthy enough to be able to go all the way down to Missouri and back would probably be pretty hard to do on a budget, especially if the other car comes back and it needs attention. Speed Demon, yeah, he lives north of the cities and I live south of the cities. But yeah, I plan on seeing the car again. Actually, the guy I got it from his son Andy, and Andy currently has the dash for my Belvedere. He's gonna metal work the dash. He's gonna do away with the speaker grill, the ashtray, and the glove box on my dash, kind of smooth it all out for me. So I see Andy quite a bit, and then that's his dad that was the original Jack Pine Savage and the guy that has the car back. And he invited me to come up and hang out and see the car anytime, but he doesn't plan on taking me out and racing it. Yeah, like Jeff saying there, as far as me trying to actually get the truck running and driving to go to No Name Nationals with everything he's got going on, trying to get his race car ready, and if my Belvedere comes back, the amount of work that that's going to need, that'd be too much to do, too short a time. Yeah, that's sad when things happen when you like break your leg or something in a motorcycle accident. Uh, Makes you have to rethink all your hobbies and that. But yeah, I know I that truck needs kind of a good once over because I've only driven it like once a year the last 2 years. When it was out at Ryan's, I'd start it up and take it for a little bit of a drive, probably about a mile to 2 miles, and then bring it back. To its credit, though, I never ever unconnected the battery and never had to jump start it. And every time I got in the truck, uh, just worked the choke a little bit, and the thing would fire right up. That 318 always starts, and if it didn't have a leaking rear main seal and a bunch of other leaks, there'd be a case made just to keep the 318 in there, but that wouldn't be as fun. Yeah, I was talking to Chris earlier that I'd want to do a little bit of a lift on my truck and I'd like to do where it was a spring lift. And all it takes is money. Yeah. If I was smart, I wouldn't have probably even started messing with the engine for the truck. I would have just sat quietly waiting for all the stuff for my Belvedere to get done to a place where we could keep moving forward with that. But everything that's getting done to it's out of my hands right now. Kind of waiting on two very important parts. Yeah. I so want it. You don't know how much I want to see your duster running, Jeff. I just want to hear it and see it go down the track. That thing's wicked. Nothing like a 950 horsepower alcohol duster going down the track on the rear bumper. Yeah. I don't even know where good junkyards are around me up here. And I know down south, my uncle owns a junkyard down in Southern Illinois, and he's been there for over 80 years. I mean, I think, well, over 60 to 70 years because he's in his late 80s right now, almost 90. And the EPA is cracking down on him so hard um, that it's making all the old junkyards that used to be around forever are starting to get kind of closed up and forced out of business by the EPA. Yeah, 400 big block. Those are great engines. I like them better than the 440s actually. And 500 to the wheels, it takes a bit to get there. Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier, me and Chris. The Jack Pine put about 500 to the rear wheels, and it dynoed at 619. So that shows you about how much more than the 500 you need to make with the engine in order to be able to get that to transfer down to the wheels. But I've been teasing people saying that my Belvedere is going to be the fastest 11-second car out there because I figure by the amount of horsepower that it's probably going to make, and it's going to weigh a good 500, probably at least more pounds than the Jack Pine as well. And that's probably without me being in it, and I'm an easy 200. Yeah, it seems like a guy can make up to 400 horsepower probably pretty reasonably, and then once you start going above that, every single horsepower costs you so much money just to get there. Well, I don't know if Chris left intentionally or if something timed out. Yeah. Problem is with having two projects is it's hard to kind of split the cost evenly between the two. It's kind of nice if you can just have one at a time and focus on them. But last couple of years, I haven't been that lucky. I don't know if the link's going to be around so that Chris can sign back in or not. Well, it looks like some more people are actually joining in later here. I know Dead Dodge Garage did his live stream earlier, so I knew that a lot of people would be in that. I was suspicious of that too. All right, he's back.
Yeah, my phone kept it overheated again.
Yeah, we were speculating on what
So,
happened to you.
yeah, I ran up to get a drink of water, and then it went crazy again. Oh, where the hell did I put my glasses? Now I can't read nothing.
Well, while you were gone, we went up to 8 people in the chat, and then as soon as you popped back in, we dropped down to 5. So I'm not saying that.
Oh, jeez.
And now I can see
Wow.
the top of your.
Hang on a second. I need to get my top of my
Yeah,
head or the roof,
yeah.
my ceiling.
Hey, T's Good Time Garage is
Hang on
in
a
here.
second.
What's up, T? What's the story on your dart this year? I know you said there were some things you needed to address, because it was you found it at the end of the race season last year. But that's one of the races I'm looking forward to. T, see you and old just Mopar Joe lining up this year. If he doesn't chicken out and say his transmission's broke again.
I had to drop the kids off at the pool. No, I didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Speaking of, we always give Joe shit. When I was at Mopars in the Park, Jed and his mom and dad were there. They had a booth right next to Ryan, and Jed was there. Well, Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage came over and was talking to Jed, and he had just got done racing Uncle Tony, but before that he was hanging out with Joe, and he was bringing up Joe and singing Joe's praises and stuff, and me being me, I had to laugh, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Joe's a pretty good driver, but he's dodged me 2 years in a row down at the No Name Nationals because he's scared." And that was the moment I could see in Jamie's eyes at that moment he decided not to like me. you know, he doesn't know that I know Joe. He doesn't know that I joke around with Joe at all, and I could just see his eyes. The way he looked at me is like, "I don't like you." And I was gonna say, like, "Well, hey, I'm just joking. Me and Joe are friends and that," but I found it more amusing just to not let him know that and let him just dislike me. The funny part of
Jeez.
that too is like, it's like years down the road, sometime, somehow, and miraculously, he'll even know who they're talking about. But someone will say something about Bigfoots and Mopars, and he's going to look him right in the eyes to go, "That guy's a douchebag." But I thought it'd be more entertaining to just let him think I'm some asshole than to let him know that I was, just teasing because I always talk smack to Joe.
Is T coming to the No Names?
I asked him
Because he's
about his
got a long.
car because I know he had some
His,
issues with it.
yeah, he just said that the previous owner put a rack and pinion in it,
Yeah, and he
and
hacked up the
cut.
K-frame, and it
Yeah,
broke because of it. He's got it all welded up and reinforced, and new LCA bushings and tie rods. The irony is, with the steering and the Belvedere, we moved the engine back quite a bit, and we're going to be able to make it work. But one of the things I thought about is, like the way the old timers did hack up the K frame to put a rack and pinion in there, because that would solve like a lot of issues. But which is cheaper, to modify the steering that I have, or to modify the K frame and make an engineer a rack and pinion that's going to work. So we've got a plan, and we're going to
yeah.
stay with it. But that was one of the things I thought about. I wish somebody made like a Mopar torsion bar K-frame set up for a rack and pinion. Caps Auto used to, and Cap Auto was bought out by QA1, and that's the first generation of torsion bar K members that QA1 offers are the Cap Auto ones. But when they took over the Cap Auto, um, I don't know, patent or whatever, they just never produced the tor or the rack and pinion steering version.
Mm. But
He's
he says
planning
he's
on.
coming to the gnomes. Yeah, he's
That's
planning
awesome.
on it.
Every year I have like a milestone, something I look forward to more than anything. The first year I was really wanting to see um, Jeff from Two Hacks. I was really looking forward to seeing his Thunderbird. Unfortunately, it didn't make it that year. But you, Chris, coming down the first year was awesome, and getting to meet Lee and Dean from NSB Customs. That was
Yeah.
year one of No Name Nationals, like the most perfect thing that could ever happen, as far as like what I was looking forward to the most. And then last year, getting to see you guys again. And then when I heard T was coming, because I'd found his channel pretty early. And when I found out T was coming, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. And I was even more excited because I knew T's car was running about the same times I was running. So I knew it was going to be like if we were to race and we're 1-1 and we'll never get to see uh, who would win that tiebreaker.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part is like racing guys that are like the same speed. That first year when I raced Brewer's Performance with that silver GTX, the times were right there, except, once again, it was my sleeping at the tree that did me in. And then same with Brad last year, um, Poor Boy's Garage. He beat me by my reaction time, so we were neck and neck too. His car was running a good solid 10th faster up until that run, though. So I think if we would have ran again, he probably still would have beat me. He had a bad run, but I had a worse reaction time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sweet Demon, I highly recommend it. You already know people when you go there. I mean, it's not like even you're not even nervous, because everybody you see, there's going to be some guys that you probably don't know their channels, but for most of the part, you're going to know everybody that's going. Definitely want to pit in the same area. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I want to bring my Easy up with me.
Mm,
I probably should.
yeah.
The poor Chevy's going to be loaded down with 2 tons of crap in it.
Well, if I don't ride down there with you, well, even if I do, I could probably throw mine and have Ryan bring it down and like just throw it in
Okay.
his trailer and bring it back. I mean, I guess I haven't asked him, and he's out of town right now, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind. And that doesn't take up much space.
Yeah. Because
And
it'll fit across the back seat of the Chevelle. It's just that,
you're going to need other stuff. And
yeah. Because I'll probably just throw some basic tools and
well, and
like
also if Nomadic
tuning
Van
box
Addict,
and crap
if
in
my
there.
friend Nomadic Andy from Nomadic Van Addict, if he comes down, he could if he's not bringing his Mustang Fox body, if he brings one of his vans, he'd always be able to bring extra stuff down too.
Oh, those 5.0s are like a pickup truck. That's how I used to use mine.
Yeah.
I'd throw those back seats down and pile crap to the ceiling in that thing.
Yeah, he loads it down and takes dogs with kennels all the way out to the Mustang Rally in Sturgis every year.
Oh, wow.
His Mustang wins awards. It's a black LX hatchback. Like I
Mm.
can't remember what year, but it's all super clean, unmolested,
Oh, wow.
and it's
Yeah, you can't
immaculate.
find 5.0s that are unmolested anymore.
I mean, it's getting higher mileage on it, but that's because he drives it out to Sturgis every year. But then the fact that he doesn't drive it every day now, it's kind of like still like a low mileage car. But the only reason it has any mileage on it at all is because when he does take it out, he drives it, like 10 hours
Wow.
out to Sturgis and back. It's a sweet
Is that
car.
a 5-speed in that?
Yes, it's a manual too,
Is it?
I think.
Is it?
Yeah, 5.0,
Oh,
5-speed, black. It's a pretty car. I had a 85
yeah.
E that was black with T-tops. for a while when I was younger.
Yeah, that's the carbureted.
Mm.
Yeah, they
It was
had a
fun.
4-barrel. That's the last year for carbureted.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah, they
fun.
had all the good stuff in them. Because I had an '86, mine was
Mm,
black. Mine wasn't a T-top car, mine was a
mm,
sunroof car. But I like it was a good car, it ran
mm.
great.
Then I had an '87 LX convertible. It was blue with a blue top and blue interior, and I put weld wheel rod lights on it. And I
Mhm.
actually put 16-inch wheels on it because that was the first time you could ever get anything bigger than 17 or 15. And I had a little bit narrower in the front, but they weren't skinnies. And then I had like wider wheels in the back. It was an automatic though, so it was still fun. But I always had dreams of hopping it up, but I never did. It was pretty much all stock.
Yeah,
Those
the convertibles were pretty twisty, though, they
I'll
didn't
never own a
handle
convertible.
as well.
I don't like them. I had a '70 Skylark convertible too, and no matter what, they're always going to wind up leaking. But we're even worse is if you take them on the open highway, the road noise, the wind, you know,
Yeah.
they're just noisy. It wears you out. And there's only 3 days a year that are perfect enough for you to drive with all the windows down and the top off.
That's like my when I had my Z28. I mean, I rarely ever pulled the T-tops out of it, and they were just more of a pain in the ass than anything else with,
Yeah.
the T-top. But I just never took them out. Every now and then I would take them out, but I had to really be in the mood to take them out, so but I never really did. And then the car just flexes so much because,
Mm.
the roof structure's gone. Because I was gonna put frame connectors in it, and I got rid of the car before I ever did it, so
Yeah. Yeah.
but
The old
sometimes
T
it's just a pain.
tops.
Now we're down to 3 people. Well, no, we went back up to 4.
Yeah. There's been a while there, like stretches
We're
where we've
just
been at
bouncing.
zero. So
We're just not that impressive to
we're pretty
watch.
popular. Well, it's a holiday weekend,
Yeah,
and
that's
then, like I
alright.
said, Dead Dodge Garage always does his live stream, and then
Yeah, Uncle Tony's doing his too,
I
and
figured I was gonna talk to you anyway. So, and we usually talk for 2 hours at least, so might as well
they
talk on.
might as well just do a live stream.
And at first, I thought we were going to get a few more of the no name national guys in here. Got T in here now, and uh, earlier, like right away, John Wilburn said hi, and then Blake was in here for a short bit, but yeah, if he brings that Duster, I think that runs low 11s, so it's pretty quick. It's a
Oh,
maroon.
that one that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, because he put a community post up with a car blacked out, like how it's kind of blocked out view, and you could just see the wheel. And he said changes are coming, and then I thought I saw a little bit of maroon on there, and I kind of wondered if it was that Duster that he was talking about. And then when he mentioned a guy from Minnesota, yeah, I remember when Alan had that car post. Jeff Mopar Jeff 604 knows that Duster too.
Mm.
It was cut up a long time ago and made into a race car, and then so it's pretty stripped down and pretty light. And I think it's got like a warmed over 440 in it, if I'm not mistaken. So
Is it back halved and stuff or
I
still
don't
leaf
think it's
spring car?
completely back halved where they had to like I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was at least mini tubbed, but it doesn't have the
Okay.
big enough tires where I think it's been back halved.
Mm.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's the other thing I love about the Belvedere too is being able to tuck those giant wheels under there. You know, we, we
Rotate
mini
the
tubbed it.
springs over.
Yeah, we mini tubbed it and moved the springs in.
They got tons of
Without mini tubbing it,
room
those
in those
cars,
things.
those I had those 295 65R drag radials on 15 by
Oh,
10.
did you mini tub it?
Yeah, we mini tubbed it. But before I had a set of black wheelies with a 295/65 drag rails on them, which are pretty wide. When we fit them on Ryan's orange 71 Roadrunner, it rubbed, and then when he put it on, it rubbed on my satellite, and it rubbed on uh, uh, it even rubbed on Ryan's 69 Cornet. Anyway, they fit perfect on the Belvedere once we moved the springs on board. I didn't have to do anything; they just fit in there. You can fit a big tire in those old B bodies like that. Just well, even hey Rooster, Tom Hoffman runs a 15 by 10 with a 29 by 10 slick on his without without doing anything to it. Rooster might have been in Jamie's live stream earlier.
Trying for that.
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
Oh, how's Ryan's Coronet run? Does that run pretty
I don't
good?
know. I haven't had a chance to get over there since he said he got some stuff ironed out on it. He put a new radiator in it, and he said he like fixed some things. He said he did a using his phone, and it ran like a 1446 or something like that, but spinning, and he's not sure how accurate it was and stuff. So
Yeah. The interior looks nice in it, though. That
all
looks
it,
like it's
the
kind of
sad part of
livable
that is it
anyways.
makes that dash pad look that much worse.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, the dash pad's cooked from being out in Arizona.
Yeah, it's amazing how much a dash pad is important on the car.
Yeah, it really is. It's like when you walk up on it, that's what you see first, right in the windshield, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, Rooster, that's exactly the problem I had with the Jack Pine was fitting a good tire in it.
And the hell of it is you don't want to go cutting that car up, you know? Well, you could if you're, but I would have just left that thing alone.
Yeah, and it's in the right hands, and it's going to live happily ever after. So exactly the way it was. Actually, they were kind of bummed because, and this is the sad part is the springs that were in there. It had like 8 springs on one side and 6 on the other, and you know the sad part is those were true B body super stock springs, which they don't make anymore and are kind of rare. And I had ditched them and put the A body 3,000 pound leaf springs on the Jack Pine. The car actually worked better now with the lighter springs and everything. It was actually 60 footing way better, but just because it was the way the car was set up, when the grandfather built the car, they were kind of wishing I would have still had those springs. I told him I still had the shocks.
Yeah, but it
I
probably.
told him I still had the drilled out dead front shocks if they wanted those, and the super stock uh, shocks that they sell for the back, which are probably just like C body shocks or something. But Mancini sells them as. I still had those shocks. Actually, I think I gave all that and the bolt-in subframe connectors I had to Ryan, um, who's never going to use any of it because it's not stock. It's not original. And then
Oh,
he's got them Chevy
is
bar.
he's
Then
not
he's
one of
got
them
them
guys.
Chevy slapper bars on there. Can't figure out why they're not working.
Well, Christ, when they're freaking 3 inches away from the freaking
I know.
spring,
Did you see that? I was
no
like,
wonder they
dude,
don't
they're
work.
not doing anything. You're not. I'm like, you wouldn't even need that pinion snubber if you had those up against the springs.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the freaking. They're just way too far away. He needs to shim them things out.
Yeah.
I mean, but he says he just likes the look of them. But I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you at least want to get them out of the dirt so you're not getting roadkill stuck to them when you're running down the highway. you know?
Well, like, Joe was talking in our chat group about like opinion snubbers and stuff, and Joe's like, well, you don't really need one. And then he goes, if you do run one with like in Ryan's setup, like with an automatic, you want it like less than like not even a half inch from the floor. You want it where it's going to engage almost right away. Whereas with the manuals, you do want it down a little bit so that it does allow it to kind of a little bit. Like I had that adjustable pinion snubber and I put it on the jack pine when we were out at Rock Falls. I didn't tell Jeff because Jeff swears that you don't need the the pinion snubber, and I actually did lose in my 60-foot using the pinion snubber. I actually had worse 60
Mm.
foots, so I took it off, and the car worked better without the pinion snubber.
Well, a lot of those Mopar guys, they get all freaked out when they see slapper bars on a freaking Chrysler,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Oh, you don't need that. You don't need that." Either one works just as well.
It fits the look that he's going for. Yeah. And then he was talking about like how you have to have the longer um, studs, and then he's got Kragers, and then anyway, I'm like, the if you buy the cheap lug nuts, you just snap the ends off of them for Krag. You just break the plastic part off. They come off anyway. They practically fall off when you open the box.
Yeah,
So I'm like the lug nut.
but he doesn't need the long studs for the he doesn't need the long studs for the front, does he?
He was saying something about it. I don't know. I think the jack pine had the longer studs in the front, but I don't know if it's just because they're unilug or there's a certain reason why. But
Well, I always thought you always needed them in the rear
yeah, you
because
have
of
to
the
have them.
slicks. You have to have them in the rear, but I never thought you had to have them in the front.
I think the
I mean, I've
Belvedere
never
has
seen
the
cars
longer
with
ones in
longer
the front
studs.
already.
Does
So
it?
because when I bought
I don't.
lug nuts, I know I broke those caps off of all of them, and we used them to put the wheels on for mock-up.
Okay.
But
Because that's what I was wondering about, because if I put those Kragers on, am I gonna get a bunch of shit for not having long enough studs? But, I
yeah,
mean, if it's a shanked lug nut, it'll engage
mm,
the depth of the size of the lug nut, you
yeah,
know what I mean? But I don't know what he was saying that they look for the stud to stick out of the wheel.
yeah.
I'm like, "Well, that
But
doesn't
you're going
make
to be
any
running a
sense to
street
me
tire, so
either."
you won't have to worry about it. If you
No, I
ran
shouldn't have to worry about it.
if you run a drag tire, then you have to worry about it, I think. But
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how picky they get. We'll see if it even gets them. Like I said, I don't foresee the Kragers getting put on it, so
yeah.
but we'll
Well, if you
see.
don't put Kragers on it, I'm not going to drive down there with you.
Okay.
I don't ride in cars unless they have Kragers.
Okay, it's all about the thread engagement,
Yeah.
front or rear. They didn't leave enough engagement into the lug nut.
Okay.
But if you're running a shanked lug nut, I would think that there would be enough engagement.
Mm.
Well, the other thing is that sometimes those shanked nuts will bottom out on the brake drum too, so
Yeah.
you gotta kinda watch that. I'm certainly not a fan of unilugs, that's for sure. So,
They suck, and I suck at
I was
putting them
hoping
on. But
I was
the
hoping to find a
Mopar
set of
Ford
direct
dual
drilled.
pattern Kragers are like worth $1 million, I guess.
Oh,
So,
really? The direct drilled
mm,
ones?
mm,
It's hard to find direct drilled Kragers.
mhm.
You can order them because I was gonna order a set from Summit
Well, I was going
because
to
they're
buy
dir
some,
they
but they absolutely did not have any in the 15 by 12s.
okay,
And when I looked last, the 15 by 4.5s were out of stock, direct drilled. But I saw Coker might have them, but then Coker charges more than
of
from their
course.
website.
Yeah.
But then I bought those slotted wheels for the back, and I don't have the money for the fronts right now. But I couldn't
Isn't
pass
that
those
just
up.
how it is? Yeah.
Cullen's dad had just taken those off of his street rod, and he was looking to sell them. And I'm like, "Well, what's he want for them?" And when they told me, I'm like, "Shit, I can't even buy a drag radial that wide for that price." So I
Jeez.
got those wheels with those tires, and they're good. I mean, they've got lots of tread left. So, and they're
Wow.
15 by 12s, but they're 5.5-inch backspace, and the Kragers are 4.5-inch backspace. So I'm going to run a 3/4 inch spacer, and that puts them perfectly in the wheel well. When we mocked it up at the body guy's house, when we slipped those wheels on there, Jeff only put a 1/2-inch spacer on there, and we had room to come out like another 1/4 inch. And I like them out. I
Hmm.
don't like it when people have mini tub cars and their wheels are like so far inside. I like it when it's just rear fender
Oh
looks.
yeah, the old dreaded. I didn't tub it right.
The Belvedere already has kind of a natural
Yeah.
body flare or fender flare,
Oh, the stud needs. Yeah, the stud needs to. And it needs to.
and I like the
Yeah.
looks of them protruding too. Um, but the Belvedere with
Yeah,
that
the
already
stud's got
natural.
to engage the nut, that natural
Because
curve
the
on it.
Jack Pine had the Kragers, and it was sticking out past the nut, and they were unilugs, and nobody ever gigged me on those. The only thing they worried about on my wheels is on my front tires. Originally, I had rubber valve stems, so I replaced those.
Oh, they wanted steel.
Yeah, so
You're locking up, Mark. I don't know if you can hear me.
am I locking up?
Yeah, you locked up.
Am I still locked up?
No, your mouth's moving.
Okay.
Your head's moving.
Can you
Your
see?
hand's moving.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, next
All
month
right. Good night, Rich.
I'll probably start going over to Chevelle to head to the no names and get
Yeah.
things dialed in on it.
Yeah.
Maybe go do a couple street pulls somewhere because I'm not paying $60 to go to the track to test and tune. And
Race
once you get
Marty.
out past the 60-foot mark, the track's worthless anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll run Marty.
Yeah.
He'll be my test mule.
Yeah.
So
Who do you think's going to win that?
yeah,
Who's
Marty,
going to win? You and Marty.
me or Marty. It all depends on if the gear's quick enough. So
Yeah.
yeah, you locked up
Yeah.
again.
Am I moving again?
Yeah, you're moving
All right.
again.
Something came up on my screen about switch to switch off of Wi-Fi. So I don't know. My wife and her sister are home too, so they're probably all on internet now too.
Oh, so now the Wi-Fi's getting stressed. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be an interesting run to see who would win because, like I said, with him being a 4-speed, he's got to really get it through the gears. So,
Yeah.
but he's probably a lot lighter than I am because he's got aluminum heads, and
Mm,
so I don't know. It's hard to say.
yeah. But he's probably got more Bondo.
He's got he's got lightweight in another way.
Yeah.
That thing runs good though.
It
It
looks
runs
good
really
too,
good.
dude. I like
It
Marty's
runs good.
Cutlass. That's pretty sweet, and I love it now that he's got those seats in there too.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a deal on those
Of all the
buckets,
bucket
boy.
seat designs, I think that's my favorite design of a bucket seat made for a
Yeah,
car. Is the those GTOs Chevelle bucket seats.
oh, they're comfortable.
Mm.
They are very comfortable. They don't support you, but they're really comfortable.
Yeah, my 70 Chevelle or my 70 GTO had those, and it had a 4-speed with no console, and I just loved it. Yeah, someday I'll get into another one of those.
They're just a pain in an
Mm.
automatic part's not that bad. Or you could get your truck done and trade it off
Trade what off?
or something.
No, like I said,
Or you
I'm gonna
might like the truck
once
too
I get
much
that truck, I'm not gonna.
after you do all this to it. So,
Once I get that truck where I can drive it.
did you get a clutch for it,
What's
Mark?
that?
Your truck. You're not gonna.
You're cutting out.
You're gonna hang on
Yeah,
to it.
once I get it running, if I get that thing running with that
Cutting out again.
if I get the thing running with the
Jeez.
440, I'm gonna be happy. So
Oh yeah.
I won't even probably look in
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace anymore.
Oh, that's bullshit. That's like a freaking drug habit right there. I can't stop looking at Marketplace.
uh, Car porn hub.
Yeah, no shit. And then every day I find something,
Oh
and
yeah,
then I
there's
save
always
it,
that one
and then
thing that it's.
yep, I
There's always
save
that
it.
one car where you're like, dude, I could almost afford that, and it's awesome.
And then
all I gotta do is
realization comes.
all I gotta do is stop building the Belvedere for a year or two.
Yeah.
If I stop building the Belvedere, I can afford that car and not finish it or the Belvedere or the truck.
Oh. Did you get a clutch for the truck yet?
No, so that's another thing I have to get for. That's another reason that's probably not going to make it to no name nationals because you're looking at least $300 there with by the time you buy the flywheel and then the clutch. So
Yeah.
that's
And the 440 takes a different clutch than the other B
yeah. Well,
B
I know like
motors.
the flex or
Hello. Oh man, he's locked up. Let's see if he comes back. We locked up good this time. Oh, he's gone. Yeah, looks like he's at the door there, T. He must be using up all his internet. Well, that's a bummer. Let's see if he comes back. Have you been racing at all, T? I remember you told me that they closed down the last track in Utah. I didn't know if you had any